Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new to my channel, please do make sure to hit the subscribe button before you leave. And if you are a returning subscriber, what's good? What's up? Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining me once again. So as you guys can see by the title, today we have a chit chat, get ready with me. We're just going to be talking about life in your 20s. So I'm essentially just making this video as a little rant, a little vent session about life in your 20s and what are we supposed to be doing. We're just going to unpack some of the things that I've been feeling getting into my 20s. Feel free to join the conversation in the comments down below, and without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Alrighty, so as you guys know, I won't be able to look at you directly because I am doing my makeup in front of the mirror, which is up here in front of me. So that's just how we gonna do it. But yeah, let's get into the video. So life in your 20s. The first thing is that kind of feels like we all don't know what we're doing, which is great because, you know, we're not alone in this confusion. I feel like life in your 20s is almost a paradox of sorts because you should be doing opposing things at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, for example, you should be saving, but at the same time you should be spending because you're young and you only live once. You should be working towards your goals, but at the same time you should also be living because you're young. You should somewhat have an idea of what you want to do with your life so that you can, you know, work towards that, but at the same time you're allowed to still be figuring it out because you're young. There's just so many opposing thoughts or opposing emotions in your 20s, and it's complicated. It's really complicated. It's like a tension of sorts of different emotions. Okay, I'm just gonna do my eyebrows real quick because I know if I do them on camera this video is gonna be an hour long. So let me just do them quickly and then we'll continue with the conversation. Okay, so let's talk about the pressure in your 20s. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there's so much pressure in your 20s, and not only like societal pressure, but also just pressure from your actual life. There's pressure to have things figured out, pressure to start a business, pressure to be productive 24/7, pressure to have it all figured out or be on your way to figuring things out, pressure to be in a relationship, just so much pressure. Pressure to go to school even if that's not what you want, pressure to get married, pressure to be rich, pressure to have certain things. But yes, I was just saying that in your 20s, at some or other stage, or the whole stage, the whole way, the whole decade, there's just always pressure to do something. Whether you're in the beginning of your 20s, you're in your mid-20s, your late 20s, like there's always pressure to do something. Like pressure maybe in your late 20s now to have a baby, mid-20s maybe to get married, early 20s maybe to figure out your career and all of that. Like there's just always pressure in your 20s at some point to do something, and a lot of that pressure is very much like societal pressure, societal norms, etc. But that pressure can also come from like your immediate environment. Like that pressure can come in the form of your family asking you like, girl, what are you doing with your life? Like, girl, when are you getting married? Girl, when you gonna have a baby? Girl, where's the man? You know, that pressure can also very much come from your immediate environment, and it's not always just societal pressure. However, society does put a lot of pressure on us to be doing the most, you know, and when you're not doing the most, you kind of feel like, well, what am I doing then? And it can very much be like a stressful situation because most of us don't even know what we're doing, like I said in the beginning, and it's all just, not to say that it's pretend, but because we're growing up in the social media era, it may seem like everyone else has everything figured out when that's not really the case. We're just making it seem like we do because that's what makes sense. And also because of social media, we have so much more access to other people's lives and we can see what other people are doing, and this may lead us to put pressure on ourselves, self-inflicted pressure, especially if you're a go-getter or really ambitious or whatever the case is. Like, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because you see like 20-something-year-old Kylie who's like now a billionaire and has like, you know, her own business and whatever. And not even Kylie's even far. Like, you'll see people in your own country, in your own city doing the most, like doing the absolute most. And then you always feel like, yo, this person is younger than me, but they're doing so well and whatever. Or even if the person is like much older than you and way ahead of you in terms of experience and, you know, the time to actually do the most, you still compare yourself to them. And I think comparison obviously just comes like at any age, but for some odd reason, I feel like in your 20s, like, it's just at its peak, like it's peak. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. Oh, my eyebrows are very dark today. Let's move on. And then actually let us talk about comparison. Like, let's actually talk about it. This thing better not be finished. It better not be finished, child. Oh, it just wasn't open. Okay, yeah, let's actually talk about comparison. This is definitely not the right way to put foundation, but that's why I'm not a makeup guru. Anyways, yeah, let's actually talk about comparison. So, like I said, in your 20s, it really feels like that's the time where we really be comparing the most. And it's also so difficult to, not difficult to compare, but like, people are on completely different paths. You and your friends, for majority of your lives, especially if you made your friends like in high school and whatever, you guys have been in the same position. Like, you're all in school and you're all doing the school thing. Then when you leave high school and you're now in your 20s, everyone is on completely different paths, like regardless of their age. Like, you can have friends that are literally 21 as well, or in their early 20s starting families. You could have friends starting businesses. You could have friends moving into their first place, friends getting married, friends having babies. You know, like, we are all on completely different paths. Like, some people might still be in school, some people might decide not to go to school and they start their career. Some people might be doing amazing in their career, some people might be struggling to get a job. We're all like essentially the same age or in the same place, as in like finishing high school. And for majority of us knowing each other, we've been in the same place and now we're in like completely different spaces. And that might impact relatability, you know what I mean? You can't relate to your friends anymore, especially if they're just doing something completely different. Like, if you guys no longer have mutual interests and you also don't have, you're not kind of like forced to be in the same space. Like, it's kind of not compulsory for you guys to see each other every day, because you're not like in the same space and you no longer have mutual interests, or you're in completely different stages in your life. That can also make you grow apart from a lot of people. And I feel like in your 20s, that's usually the time where like you are growing apart from people and losing a lot of people. Also, people change, you know, sometimes it's for the better, sometimes it's not really for the better. But sometimes the person that you knew in high school and the person that they are right now can be completely different. And sometimes that change isn't necessarily bad, but it's just that like that change is not compatible for you, you know. And I 100% agree that people need to change. It doesn't make sense to stay the same, but that's generally how we grow apart from a lot of people in our 20s, because we are becoming the people that we are supposed to be. We're growing into the women and men that we are going to be. Sometimes like values change, and sometimes it's not even necessarily values. Like, sometimes you generally just don't relate anymore, and it be like that sometimes, and like, it's okay, and you are allowed to move on from those people. You are allowed to let them go. I'm actually going to do a video on like letting go of people. But yeah, your 20s is generally the time where you are going to grow apart from the people that you've been you. You're going to lose a lot of people. You are going to change in other people's eyes, and other people are also going to change. And that is totally okay. Like, it's definitely fine, because you will also meet other people that are great and that are more aligned with who you are now. And also you'll realize who your lifelong friends are, which is also great, because even though circumstances are changing and things are changing, like, you guys still remain the same, because maybe you have the same values, maybe you still relate, maybe you have things in common still. And sometimes it's not even about like all of that. Like, sometimes it's just about effort. It's genuinely just about effort, because once you're out of high school, you actually have to put in an effort to see people, to make plans with them outside of seeing each other at school every day, if that makes sense. And like, for me, I went to a boarding school, so we all came from like different places, like north, south, east, west, you know, the whole of Johannesburg. And obviously we saw each other at boarding school, and we lived with each other, and we saw each other every day. So now that change of like not seeing each other every day, you actually have to put in the effort. And some people don't put in effort, and that's also why sometimes friendships fail. It's not even necessarily because of what I mentioned previously, like you're growing apart or your values are different, your interests are different. Sometimes it's just a matter of effort, hey? And people are not putting in the effort, or you are the only person putting in the effort, which then becomes a problem. And yeah, that's just what happens. And then yeah, like I said, sometimes you can see your lifelong friends, because you see the friendships that stand the test of time and distance and all of it. Like, some of my closest friends actually live so far away from me, and like, we barely see each other. Maybe we see each other like once in like a couple of months, you know, but but the love is still there, and like, we make it work, we put in effort. Guys, is it just me? But every time I start doing my makeup, all of a sudden my nose is running. Like, all of a sudden. It wasn't running before, but all of a sudden it wants to run now. Like, what witchcraft is there? Okay, so yeah, in your 20s, we've established that there's a lot of pressure. We've established that you will lose people and you will grow apart from people, and that's okay. And now I also want to just talk about like adulting. Like, entering your 20s is literally the introduction to adulting. And let me tell you one thing about adulting that I can tell you for absolute free, is that adulting, child, it's not fun. It is not fun at all. Like, not even a little bit. Not having a good time. Straight up not having a good time. Didn't sign up for this. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. Like, adulting, hey, adulting, guys, is literally the ghetto, and you can quote me on that. So apparently you're supposed to blend your contour up, and I didn't know that. I had been blending my contour down like my whole life. I actually learned this from my best friend's YouTube channel. She has a beauty channel, you guys should subscribe. I was talking about adulting and how the transition from being a child and being dependent, like heavily dependent, and just having everything provided for you, to trying to kind of make a life for yourself, it's a transition. Like, it's really a change. Just realizing that you now have to kind of, you know, make a way for yourself, and you actually have to work towards financial independence, work towards financial freedom, because your parents have carried you thus far. And you know, they also deserve a break, a breather from taking care of you. And depending on what kind of household you come from, and you know, whether y'all are moneyed or not, you also realize that there are certain things that you might want that your parents may not be able to give for you, and therefore you need to work for those things yourself, and you need to work towards them. And just realizing that you can't just get money whenever you want anymore. And sometimes the transition from childhood to adulthood can be a smooth transition. You know, it's not always like brutal, you know, but I feel like for some people who maybe are like first generation graduates, or people who have families to take care of after they graduate, like they need to immediately start working, etc., then it can be like really difficult. Also with adulting, you learn and realize that there are so many things that you don't know, that you wonder like, why didn't they teach us this in school, you know? Like maybe things like how to pay your taxes, how to buy a house, how to build credit, you know, finances, budgeting, all of that type of stuff. Like with adulting, you realize that there's so many things that you wish you knew, you know, and then you kind of have to learn all over again. You kind of have to, yeah, you kind of have to learn all over again. You kind of have to teach yourself certain things, or if you're lucky enough to have parents that know these things, obviously you can ask them for advice, etc., to kind of guide you on your way. But yeah, there's so many things they should have been teaching us in school instead of Pythagoras theorem. But anyways, we moved. There are people out there who are using it today, so it's fine. I literally look crazy, but trust the process. Trust the process. But yeah, what I'm essentially saying is that being in your 20s and trying to learn adulting is not always the easiest thing, and also that transition of realizing that I need to get my life together because my parents can only carry me so far. Like I also need to start building a life of my own. And then while we are on the topic of adulting and building a life of your own and finances, etc., can we just talk about the job crisis in our country? Like, what is even going on? I saw a post today that literally said that 7 in 10 young people in South Africa are unemployed. Like 7 in 10, meaning that only 3 are employed. For every 10 young people. Yo, guys, English. But basically, where there are 10 people standing together, 7 of them are unemployed. The next 10 people, 7 of them are unemployed. Like, that's just crazy to me. And our unemployment rate is literally so high. Like, I don't know if it's like at its peak, but like, surely it's at its peak. Why has it been higher? I don't know. I'm not sure, but it is extremely high, and it is quite scary, to be honest, because it's kind of like, well, what we gonna do? And I think that's why probably a lot of young people are trying to lean towards trying to start their own things or doing their own things, because finding a job is definitely not easy at all. Well, I mean, maybe it's easy for some people. Like, everyone's experience, of course, is different, but I think that based on my personal experience, that it is not easy. And yeah, it's kind of stressful, kind of worrying, but what can one do? Because also when you are starting your own thing, sometimes it requires capital, sometimes it requires money, depending on what you're trying to start, of course. And sometimes those resources are not always available. But also we are lucky to be growing up in a time where we can create like our own platforms, you know, with social media and everything, and not even necessarily being like a content creator, but like if you want to start a business, you don't necessarily need like a whole website anymore. Like, you can grow your business on social media. You can sell from Facebook, you can sell from Instagram, then build as you go on. You can advertise your services without having to pay for advertising to a certain extent. Like, you can start something with the platforms that we have available, which I think is definitely a bonus considering our unemployment situation. So yeah, I was just talking about the job crisis and how scary it is to be a 20-something in this time. I think also a lot of companies are not really hiring and everything because of the pandemic. We definitely have to take the pandemic into account, but it doesn't mean all hope is lost. You know, like I said, with all the platforms that we have nowadays, we can try and do something. And then while we are talking about the job situation, can we just talk about like feeling lost in your 20s? This probably isn't something as well that is exclusive to your 20s. Like, a lot of things aren't. Feeling lost, like not really knowing what to do with your life, what direction to go in. Like, you know, I feel like in your 20s you really are going to try a lot of things before you find what sticks, unless, you know, you bare knew what you want to do from a really young age or something. But sometimes those things can also change. But like, unless you're 100% sure of the path that you want to go on, I feel like in your 20s you're going to try a lot of things before you find what sticks, and you are going to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail, and you're going to fail many times before you actually succeed. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to take a long time for you to succeed, but it just means that we need to be open to the idea of failing at certain things on our way to finding that thing, you know what I mean? So yeah, you're gonna try things and get rejected, you're gonna send out CVs and get rejected, you might try start a business and it doesn't work, you might try like a lot of different things. We are bound to try a lot of different things during this time, and it's also okay like to start over. I think sometimes we think that, yo, I'm in too deep here, like I can't restart my life, or I can't do something new, or you know, the time has passed, whatever the case is. And I'm just here to say that, child, it is 100% okay to start over. Like, it is okay. You are definitely allowed to start again. Don't ever think that it's too late to try something new, or like you've tried too many things and whatever. Like, keep trying until you find that thing, and I promise you'll find it. But yeah, feeling lost is definitely something that I personally am experiencing and have been experiencing, trying to find out what is actually like for me, you know. And I think that's like a common feeling amongst us 20 somethings. Well guys, having hooded eyes is literally so ghetto because you can never really see the makeup look unless you open your eyes really wide. But anyways, okay, we are basically almost done. Let me just do my lips. Alrighty guys, so this is the final look. One thing about makeup, it will always come together at the end. So I'm not really crazy about this lip because I thought it was more nude than pink, but it's actually like very pink. But it is what it is. That's why practice makes perfect. That's why we keep trying. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my little get ready with me and my little rant on life in your 20s. Please let me know in the comments down below how you're finding life in your 20s. If you are in your 20s, what are some things that you're learning? What are you going through? You know, let's continue the conversation in the comment section. Please do make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the road to 1K, baby. So I would really appreciate your support, and of course sharing this video with anyone else you think would enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.